I lead the Google Doodle team, and people often ask me, how'd you get such a sweet job? And I want to tell you 2 guaranteed ways for you to get the job of your dreams. 1 is wearing funny costumes, and 2 is moving to India. It started for me just up the road a piece in Northwest Indiana. I'm a Hoosier myself. And these are my 2 older brothers and I in the cornfield garden in our backyard. I was a very cute child. This is me dressed up for Halloween about 5 years later. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be like a punk rocker or just a girl. Doesn't really matter. But dressing up is not something that our family did just for Halloween. This is my brother Dylan on an album cover for his band Planet Booty. I'm proud to say that I designed and I photographed this album cover, and it got the band quite a bit of attention. The Chicago Tribune named it one of the worst album covers of all time. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I'm not quite sure the Midwest fully appreciated my family's version of dressing up. These are some screenshots from a video of my brothers and I doing a choreographed dance routine of the song Fish Heads and the elementary school talent show in about 1986. If you watch the video on YouTube, and I suggest that you do, you'll hear kind of a stifled clap after the video's over. My brothers were the sailors, and I'm the shark out of water. Dressing up in my family didn't start there. These are my parents in the 70s wearing frog costumes that my mom put together. Our last name is Germick, so with its proximity to Kermit, frogs have become sort of our spirit animal. Dressing up didn't start there either. This is my grandfather in World War II. It's not a funny costume, but it's kind of a funny picture. I don't know why he's standing on a tree stump. Fun fact, the first Google logo looked like this. This is what it was like in August of 1998 before I started. And this is what it was like when the founders went to the Burning Man Festival in Nevada. In a way, it's like the logo was wearing a costume. And it was changing its appearance to make a statement to connect to people. I can't say that the early doodles were particularly artful. And when I was doing the slides for this talk, I found out that the 1998-1999 Thanksgiving doodles, although the logo had changed, they actually used the same clip art turkey. But the founders must have known that they were onto something, because actually in 2001 they filed a patent for doodles, and in 2011 the patent was actually granted. Of all the doodles that I've created, one of my favorites is this one for Bob Ross. You give it up for Bob Ross, he's amazing. Oh. Keep it going for Bob Ross. And I was just really honored to sort of shine a light on somebody who democratized art for so many people, including myself. And at this point, doodles have really become anything you could really illustrate, but not just illustrations. This doodle for Sesame Street, for the grand finale of a series we ran for a week around the world, was actually the first original photograph doodle. You can see backstage before we did all the photoshopping. And it was also a great opportunity to meet Big Bird. Another breakthrough for doodles came when I noticed some Atari posters hanging up above a cubicle around the corner from my desk. And under those posters was a designer named Marcin Luhari, who's also very technically inclined. We bonded over the artwork in retro video games and how kind of wonderfully deviant it was from the actual games themselves. Same game. And with that sort of mutual love, we worked on the Google logo for Pac-Man's 30th anniversary, which was sort of the first time Google really took full advantage of the interactive capabilities of the web with the doodle. But we didn't stop there. We're always trying to push the envelope. This doodle for Robert Moog, the synthesizer pioneer, actually had 20-some-odd knobs you could tweak to make nearly limitless sounds. And it had a virtual 4-track recorder that you could create a song with and share with your friends. This doodle was up for a day, and in that day, we had 54 million songs created and over 57 years of music recorded. So I didn't have time to read the entire book, but the online cheat sheet for branding for dummies mentions consistency 4 times. So the takeaway for me is that apparently you're supposed to keep the logo the same all the time. But I think something that Google did was have the courage to buck the conventional wisdom of consistency to the benefit of the user for all these other qualities that are also quite wonderful and made capable by the dynamism of the internet. So how did I get started with artwork? Of course, that's part of being a Google Doodler. I was a kid and I drew, just like probably everybody here, but I just never stopped. I don't think I was very good because I couldn't actually find any of my original artwork. So this is a recreation. I remember this was Claus. He was like a radioactive lab rat who had like an abnormally large paw. I was watching a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the time. This is some early experimentation with digital art. I did a poster for a high school event and used our principal as our pirate mascot. This is me. Eventually, I went to art school. I went to New York City, and I went to Parsons School of Design in Eugene Lane College. I was really excited to find a double degree program that let me study illustration and creative writing. This is me backstage at graduation with my full graduation costume, balancing water bottles on my head. My favorite project of all time in college was definitely this video I made for one of my brother's other bands, where I dressed up like a frog. You might recognize the costume. It's the exact same one my parents wore 25 years earlier. And in the video, the frog travels around Manhattan and tries to find inner peace while it's being distracted by the outside world. And actually, you can sort of see some of my start of interest in Eastern philosophies and religion. Around that time, I also took a Hindu mythology class, and it blew my mind. This is a painting I did of Ganesh around that time. I don't know if you guys know the story of Ganesh, but I'm going to explain it as I understand it. So, the goddess Parvati is taking a bath, and from the dirt and soap scum in her bath, she forms a child, okay? To protect her while her husband is away, she posts her child outside. Her husband's the god Shiva, who is meditating in the forest. When he comes back, he's so upset to find this kid blocking his way into his own house that he cuts the kid's head off. And when Parvati finds out, she's so pissed that Shiva backs down and says, okay, I'll find the first sleeping creature and replace its head with this decapitated boy. And thus, we have the god Ganesh. I don't know where the 4 arms came from. Those might have been added on later. But I found it was just, this kind of story was so fascinating, so creative, so inventive, and I followed that fascination to studying abroad in India. This is a picture of me wearing another type of costume, a mustache. There's a lot of peer pressure in India, especially amongst my male friends there, to have a mustache. But more importantly, it's a picture of the camera that I got from my family. When I traveled, they all got together and they bought me a FD Sony Mavica. And it was a camera that actually took floppy disks. It was an early digital camera, 2000. The amazing thing was you didn't have to pay for film, right? So you could just reuse the floppy disk. And I carried that camera everywhere. I took probably 30 pictures or so a day. And I really wanted to share these photos. From India at the time, to make a phone call would cost $1 a minute. And my monthly budget was $60. So what I ended up doing was using a computer that I had access to with some free software, and I learned how to make a basic website. I called it the Ramayana, and it was a takeoff of the story, the Ramayana, which is the story of Ram. I don't really know Sanskrit, but I assume Ramayana means the story of Ryan. And I would take my favorite photos from the week and I'd post them. Like this sign, I found this painting of a rooster on the side of a building, and it just looked amazing. It made me so incredibly happy. It was a human touch in a place where in the US, you'd usually just see some sort of mechanical thing, like it was a computer printout or some sort of like stencil. And sign painting made a huge impact on me in India. Like I saw signs everywhere, these hand-painted things. This is something on a wall, this is something in a hall, and you could even find paintings in a stall. And the human touch was just every place. One person I saw all over these signs was Rajnikant, this kind of action star comedian, amazing fellow that's the sort of bastion of Tamil cinema. He was everywhere, and then it inspired me actually to take opportunity to use the chance to be in India and have a tutorial with an Indian sign painter. I actually apprenticed an Indian sign painter and painted my own Rajnikant. When I got back to the US, I was really excited to show off my newfound website skills because I thought it'd be a great opportunity to have a way to exhibit my artwork and my photographs. And the story went like this. I would show people my portfolio website, and they would say, cool pictures, can you make me a website? And so that basically started a freelance web design career, which lasted about 5 years until I decided to go legit. I moved from New York, I moved to San Francisco, and the first full-time job I ever applied to was to Google. By the graces of the internet, I got in. I was worried about fitting in this company. Fortunately, I started the day before Halloween, and something told me that I would be able to be myself. I was hired for the most part as part of the webmaster team creating icons on all the websites. So I was basically from India, going from being an illustrator that learned how to make websites, I now became a person working on websites to make illustrations. A big break came when I designed the Street View Pac-Man icon for Google Maps. He's the guy you drag onto the map to sort of see the panorama, all the photos. Did a bunch of variations. You can notice one there. A few of those were actually Easter eggs that you could search in certain locations and they would show up. I was in the meeting where they were trying to figure out how they want to promote the product, and I was actually bored out of my mind. And I suggested, why not just have the product manager dress up like Pac-Man, sort of make a fool of himself while he explains the product to people. And the team thought it was a pretty good idea, except one change, I would be the fool. And that's how I ended up on YouTube with an orange unitard in front of roughly 13 million people. It was just a hop, skip, and a jump to continue to work in this vein on Doodles. And now there's actually a website you can go to that has all 1,500 or so that we've created. But they're obviously not just mine. There's a really talented team. These are some of the engineers and illustrators that make Doodles in Mountain View, California, the team that I lead. And we create all kind of doodles, like this one for Charlie Chaplin. This was an homage to one of my creative heroes, and not only was I able to write and direct it, I also got to co-star as the police officer. And here I am, dressed up in costume on a doodle that's dressed up as a silent film. I also was able to make doodles for my beloved India. This was for Independence Day in 2010. It was actually animated on the website. It was a rangoli, which is a type of powder chalk art they do on the sidewalk for holidays. It wasn't my idea. It was the idea of an Indian Googler named Ananta Kahari Singh. And as luck would have it, 3 months ago today, her and I got married. This is the illustration I made for our wedding card. It was based off of a story of Radha and Krishna, if you're familiar. We kind of switched roles, and you can notice the influence of sign painting there for the concatenation of Ryanataka. Probably the best use of costume I've ever had was the actual wedding day itself. It was such a special day that even the elephant wore a costume. And so here's the key takeaway. In essence, dressing up and moving to a foreign land have something in common. And what that is it's a chance, it's taking a risk to maybe make a fool of yourself, to get out of your comfort zone, and connect with people in a way that could be really wonderful. And for me, in my experience, it wasn't just a way to pretend to be something that I'm not. Dressing up in a costume, moving to India, in a way even creating Google logos, was a way to figure out who I am. That's my story for you today. Thank you for sticking around.